Chapter 431. I'm here to take her big sister position. Exactly. Lin Che, are you alright? Quick, see if you're hurt. Qin Wanwan looked at Lin Che from across. Little Che, how can you be so careless? You are a little too famous now, so it's easy for others to be jealous of you. There are so many people here. Someone could have done it out of jealousy. Lin Che only looked at her, unable to think of anyone else who hated her as much as Qin Wanwan did. However, Qin Wanwan's acting was not bad currently when her acting was usually average. Right now, she was covering up her own misdeeds by trying to shift the blame onto others. There was no surveillance in the room, so there was no way of finding out who put the thumbtack there. Someone said in astonishment, "Oh my god, Lin Che. Your back is bleeding." Lin Che picked up the phone and called someone. She said that she was bleeding and needed a doctor to manage it and give her a tetanus shot at the same time. She couldn't possibly trouble Yu Minmin today. She called some other people at the company since this training was organized by them. They definitely needed to handle this matter. The team on Lin Che's side knew about it and quickly called for help. Within minutes, the room was entirely blocked out. They examined, tested and treated Lin Che while the people outside couldn't help but look. This obviously had to do with Qin Wanwan, but the person in charge of the company was here. He looked at Qin Wanwan but didn't seem prepared to do anything. Yang Lingxin also tagged along. She noticed this and was extremely angry. How can you be like this? I believe that this matter definitely has to do with Qin Wanwan. That's enough. What do you know? You're just a small lass. The person in charge who came was the company's assistant manager, Gu Jingze. He simply said to Lin Che, "You two have been causing a nuisance and it's not a small matter. Now stop blowing things up and making trouble." Yang Lingxin felt extremely unjust. But Lin Che held Yang Lingxin back as she knew that there was no other way. Because there was no evidence. Lin Che said, "Forget it. I understand." Lin Che walked away lightly. Yang Lingxin followed her. "Sister Che, are you just going to let her off like this?" Lin Che said, "It's just a thumbtack. At the very most, she merely wanted to hurt me a little and teach me a lesson. Or she just wanted to show me whose side the company is ultimately standing on. She wants to take me a notch down, and she also thought of the fact that I have no evidence to prove that she did it. Even if I argue with the company, I'd just become a laughing stock. The company isn't going to stand with us. Seriously, the company is too much. This can't be helped in the first place. Alright, let's go." Qin Wanwan watched Lin Che leave and then said to Gu Jingze, "Thank you." Gu Jingze quickly said, "Not at all, not at all. But just don't do it again next time." "I understand. I just wanted to make things clear to her that I'm not someone who wants to intrude. I'm not an intruder. I'm here to take away everything she has." Qin Wanwan laughed and asked, "This company is standing on my side, right?" Naturally, naturally. Of course, we side you. Director Chen dotes on you so much." Gu Jingze was actually rather fond of Lin Che. It was a pity that Qin Wanwan actually had a relationship with their higher-up, Director Chen. That was no longer their financial company's business. That was the entire entertainment group's business. Qin Wanwan also had the capability to find a backing and immediately vie for Lin Che's position. It was too bad that Lin Che and Yu Minmin were too clean and didn't like this kind of route. Otherwise, Lin Che was also actually rather pretty and she definitely didn't lose out to Qin Wanwan in abilities. She would have no lack of people liking her and willing to be her backing. Lin Che was pricked, but nobody thought that the company would not pursue this matter at all and simply let this quietly die down. The people outside were still watching the commotion. Celebrities were celebrities. Just a little issue and a whole house of people would come. However, they didn't do anything to Qin Wanwan even if they suspected her. It looked like the waters of the entertainment circle was really deep. When Yu Minmin just woke up at the newly minted mistress of the house in glazed tile palace, she really couldn't adjust to it. Because everyone around her started calling her, "Madam," instead of Miss Yu. However, the one thing she didn't expect was that her re-education still had to carry on. She still had to learn English, language, art appreciation, various histories, and etiquette. Yu Minmin's phone was also bombarded the next day. She could only block the calls so that her phone would be able to cope. All the callers wanted to interview her as the new Madam President, or they wanted to invite her to some sort of banquet. But Yu Minmin rejected every single one of them. Gu Jingming only returned on the second day. Looking at Yu Minmin, he told her that they were going back to her home to visit her family tomorrow. Yu Minmin quickly asked, "Are you serious? You want to go to my house? Actually, can we simply save these steps?" Gu Jingming said, "I thought so too, but the public relations department said that they'll let the media interview there. Our wedding was simple, but we still need to carry out the necessary formalities." Yu Minmin could only heave a sigh. Gu Jingming asked, "What? Do you not want to go home?" "Of course I do, but with you." Yu Minmin looked up at Gu Jingming. He was so cold, hard to please, had so many followers, and the media was also tagging along. She figured that this was going to be such a bother. Gu Jingming looked at her quietly. After a long while, he said, "What does your family like? Your father isn't out of prison yet and he should be more stable now. He can come out if he wants to. What do your mother and brother like?" Yu Minmin said, "My dad, I'll see him another time and decide if he should be let out or not. I don't think my mom likes anything really. She usually likes to take walks, eat some snacks, and bicker with the landlord together with the neighbors. As for my brother, he likes electronic games." Gu Jingming heard this and was in deep thought. Yu Minmin said, "You don't have to prepare so much. Just take it as a casual trip there." Gu Jingming nodded, "I got it. Go take a rest." "You can take a rest. I still need to learn embroidery," Yu Minmin thought in agony. "Embroidery?" Gu Jingming asked. "What is that?" "It's exactly what it is. The teacher told me to experience customs and traditions, so I need to learn some embroidery. I'll be able to demonstrate my skills when the time comes." The corners of Gu Jingming's mouth twitched as he looked at her disdained face. When Yu Minmin looked up, she saw Gu Jingming's mouth curved into a smile. It felt like a moment of warmth in the cold winter. The ends of his mouth were like spring flowers. This was very different from his usual cold and stiff expression. Gu Jingming looked down and caught her staring at him. He frowned and asked, "What are you looking at?" "Ah, nothing." Yu Minmin quickly turned around and walked out, thinking that this man really looked rather pleasant when he smiled. It was a pity that he was usually expressionless most of the time. She hurriedly said, "I'm off to my embroidery class." Chapter 432. The president goes back with Madam to visit her family. Yu Minmin was pulled out of bed early in the morning to prepare to go back home. Outside, the guards were already prepared. After changing, Yu Minmin looked down at her own clothes. She thought that it was too luxurious to always wear a new outfit each time she met the media, and each outfit was specially customized. After she was done, she stepped out to see that Gu Jingming was already waiting outside. He looked at Yu Minmin and reached out to pull her. "So slow. Women are slow, to begin with. If you don't like it, go find a man," she retorted. Gu Jingming's eyes darkened as he glared at her. Yu Minmin knew that he didn't dare to do anything with the media around. "Quick, look, the cameras are pointing at us. Smile a little, a stiff face is so scary." Sure enough, Gu Jingming could only lift his head up and look into the camera. He held Yu Minmin's waist and went into the car together. The entourage was driven all the way to the street in front of Glazed Tile Street. All the eyes behind followed them. The Glazed Tile Palace team was really attractive. Everyone on the road who saw them all turned their heads. Naturally, when they were right in the city, they drew even more attention. They stopped at the entrance of the small district, but the dingy district suddenly looked like brand new. Those smelly ditches were gone and the street was no longer dirty. Yu Minmin wasn't gone for very long, but this place already changed so much. The inhabitants of the district crowded outside. The windows above were also full of people who looked at the president's guards cordon off the surrounding area. The entourage stopped. Gu Jingming and Yu Minmin got out of the second car separately. The guards quickly walked over and blocked off the horde behind. Gu Jingming and Yu Minmin walked towards the building while cameras continued following them behind. Yu Minmin smiled at the camera and waved. Gu Jingming saw this and immediately tugged her along as he walked in. Inside the small district, Yu Minmin's mother and brother were already waiting for them. Her mother was still nervous. She quickly bowed and said, "Hello, Mr. President." Her brother looked extremely excited. Gu Jingming said, "Just call me Jingming." Her mother blushed and was too shy to say it out loud. This was Mr. President, how could she get accustomed to calling him by his name? Gu Jingming said, "Over here. I am only your son-in-law." Okay. Our home is a mess, seriously, Mother Yu said. Gu Jingming replied, "That's all right." Under the protection of the guards, they finally went inside. The neighbors were all pointing and staring. Yu Minmin didn't look up. She finally closed the door and heaved a sigh of relief. Gu Jingming called his staff to bring the gifts. "These are for both of you. Just a little token to show my respect." He gave Mother Yu a piece of jade. She was so happy as she held the gift. Looking at such an expensive thing, she didn't quite dare to touch it. For her brother, it was the latest game console. Her brother held it in amazement. "Wow! Isn't this not out yet?" Gu Jingming said, "It's just a beta version." "Wow, brother-in-law, you are too kind. Not just anybody can have the beta version." Yu Minmin glared at him. He used the term, brother-in-law, so fluidly. However, Gu Jingming seemed to give her a lot of face. He kept smiling politely and didn't reveal that cold expression of his. Mother Yu saw that Gu Jingming was so nice to them and didn't treat them shabbily at all. She felt a lot more confident. After all, Minmin was so different from them and she married into their family. Mother Yu was naturally worried. Now that Yu Minmin seemed fine, Mother Yu felt a lot more assured. Lunch was bound to be had here. Mother Yu already prepared many dishes. At this point, she quickly said to Yu Minmin, "Go take Mr. President to your room to rest. I'm going to prepare the dishes." Yu Minmin agreed. Fearing that it would get too awkward to hang around here, she told him to go in. Yu Minmin's room was not big. After he went in, Yu Minmin went to help out in the kitchen. Mother Yu asked, "What should I cook? What does Mr. President like to eat?" Yu Minmin said, "Forget it. I don't think he is picky. Anyway, he has to make do today." "How can he do that?" "He has no choice. There are dozens of chefs in Glazed Tile Palace. Everything he eats is cooked with the freshest ingredients from the day itself. Every meal he eats in a week is different and every day is a table full of dishes. There's no way we can produce that kind of food." "Dozens of chefs," Mother Yu repeated in amazement. It looked like they really had to make do today. Mother Yu said, "Seems like Mr. President is rather nice to you. It'll be better in the future." "Yeah, I know. You coming here today made everyone so happy. It's their first time seeing Mr. President. It's also my first time actually. They can't possibly look down on us anymore. Mr. President personally came into our home. They can't possibly think Mr. President looks down on us, right?" Yes. You have no idea that because of Mr. President's arrival, they started fixing the roads outside a few days before. They even especially helped us tidy up our rooms. They cleaned all our roads and dirty water outside. Our neighbors say that it was all thanks to you that they can now live in a clean place. No wonder. I saw that the road looked different. Yes, they are dying with envy. I said our Minmin is very capable. Yu Minmin ate some cucumber as she laughed, thinking that maybe there wasn't any loss in being Madam President after all. After all, it allowed her family to live a better life. Yu Minmin said that she was going to go back to her room while Mother Yu went out to buy some ingredients. Outside, people looked at her and asked, "Is Mr. President in your home?" "Yes," Mother Yu beamed. "Oh my, your Minmin is really useful now. I really couldn't tell that she would become Madam President. Our Minmin never made us worry since she was young. All these people must be the President's guards. This is so grand, we can only watch from the outside and can't pass through. They even stopped us from going in, saying that only residents with identification can enter. Really, that must have been troublesome for you guys. There's nothing we can do. Our little district has a Madam President now and we're also affected." Mother Yu was so happy that there was a spring in her steps. In the room, Yu Minmin entered and saw Gu Jingming holding a photo from her past. On it was a girl with pigtails. She wore a school uniform and looked very pure. There were also many volleyball pictures in which her expressions were ugly and actions were exaggerated. Yu Minmin blushed as she quickly went over to snatch them back. Gu Jingming, why are you going through my stuff? Gu Jingming put the photos down, sat on her bed, and looked around the tiny room. There are no secrets between you and me. Relax. This tyrannical, aloof bastard. Chapter 433. Her talent performance was barely minimal. Yu Minmin cursed internally. She said, this place is a little small and lunch will be a little worse. I hope you won't mind. It's okay, he said happily. Yu Minmin looked at him gratefully, thank you. Gu Jingming turned to her suspiciously. Yu Minmin said, you're so nice to my family. It makes them very happy. Also, you're so accommodating with this place. Gu Jingming said plainly, it's all right. You are my wife and I am your husband. It is my duty to be nice to them. However, Yu Minmin was still already very grateful. After all, it was actually rather incompatible for him to stay here. This place was too small and broken while every inch of his body was glorified by people daily. He was so perfect and meticulous. To make him come to such a dingy place, she felt that it didn't match his exquisite body. After all, they didn't marry out of love. She thought that it was already enough for him to give her face and give merit to her family. Lin Che's training ended and there was a special graduation party at night. Everybody prepared for the talent show. Some were dancing, some were singing, some were performing a sketch, and some were playing musical instruments. Everybody knew that Qin Wanwan sang well. She simply sang a song. The audience below watched Qin Wanwan sing and they applauded. When Qin Wanwan went down, they even said to her, you can totally join Universal Singer. Qin Wanwan said, no way. I'm not that professional. Not at all. You're comparable to a professional. Hey, what about Lin Che? What is she performing? She hasn't said anything. Lin Che went on stage and said to everybody, I really don't think I have any talent. I see that some of you can act, dance, sing, and it put very huge pressure on me. So I'll just tell a joke to all of you. The audience was very shocked. Was she for real? She was telling a joke. The teacher said, Lin Che, do you really not have any talent you can show us? Telling jokes is also considered a talent, teacher. If it doesn't count, I might have to show you my talent for standing still. The teacher was speechless and could only wave his hand and let her tell a joke. Lin Che said, at a night symposium in a boys' dorm, Boy A says, give me a woman and I can create an ethnicity. Boy B says, give me a dog and I can create a race. Boy C says, I'll let you be a zookeeper. You'll be able to create World of Warcraft. Everybody was stunned and then burst into laughter. Lin Che lifted her skirt, did a curtsy, and went down. Lin Che is such a tease. Because of Lin Che's teasing, everybody was laughing out loud. Not long after, someone uploaded this segment onto the internet. Saying that it was a celebrity training night, everyone looked at the celebrities' graduation results. Everything was fine at the beginning until it got to Lin Che's segment when she simply told a joke. Netizens watched it and passed the word around, skip to 15:30, there's a surprise. People later simply skipped to that part and burst out laughing when they saw Lin Che's performance. Tons of people completely skipped the front and only watched the end portion of the video. Among the line of good students, Lin Che was simply a precious gem. Some people commented that Lin Che was really a candid girl. She was such a tease. Some also said that Lin Che was like a mudslide in the entertainment circle. How could this be called a talent? Because of this, Qin Wanwan's singing was completely overlooked. After all, everybody already knew that Qin Wanwan could sing. There was nothing new. No matter how good she sounded, she was still just singing. After the graduation party, Lin Che returned home. On the way, she saw the news and thought that she was going crazy. Who posted this online? She was simply at a loss for words. She only told one joke and these people. Her joke was so perverted. Her image was going to be ruined at this rate. Lin Che tossed around in the car, oh no, oh no. I'm done for, Gu Jingze. My image. Gu Jingze said, this is also one of your characteristic features. It's not the first time you went off script anyway. What are you worried about? Lin Che hit Gu Jingze's chest angrily. Who says? Who says that I don't stick to the script? Seriously. Gu Jingze hadn't seen her behave this way and lean into him in a while. He grabbed hold of her and really didn't bear to put her down. The chauffeur didn't dare to look back, but he was also already accustomed to the way Madame and Sir interacted. However, he still felt uneasy when he saw Madame kick and hit Sir while Sir didn't seem to mind at all. He always thought that Sir was someone who would suddenly burst into violence and strangle a person. It was known that he was harsh to others. However, he wasn't strangling Lin Che's neck and instead let her kick up a fuss. The chauffeur really didn't know how to feel and it was so surreal to him. Lin Che reached home and called to the maids, "I'm home." The maids quickly rushed out. They looked at Lin Che and said, "You're finally back, madam. We missed you so much." "Madam, the room is already tidied up. Is there anything you'd like to eat? I'll prepare it for you." After some time, the maids finally left the couple alone. Lin Che said to Gu Jingze, "It looks like it's raining outside. Shall we take a walk?" "How can you walk in the rain?" "The rain adds to the mood and the rain isn't heavy. I feel like going out for a walk. A slow stroll in the rain, don't you think it would be very romantic?" Lin Che beamed at Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze looked up at the sky and could only nod obligingly. Lin Che saw this and jumped in excitement. She quickly went to change. When they went out, the rain was indeed not heavy. The light feeling brushing against the face felt very nice. Lin Che didn't like others to hold the umbrella for her, so she didn't allow the maids to come over. Gu Jingze saw this, took the umbrella, and said, "I'll hold it. If you hold it with your height, it's no use for me." Lin Che pouted and looked at Gu Jingze. If she held the umbrella, it would practically be pressing against his head. It was his fault for being so tall. She was already holding it up to the best of her abilities, but he still couldn't fit under it. Seeing Gu Jingze hold the umbrella, Lin Che went to his side and held his waist. Walking and stepping on the wet ground, she reached out a hand and felt the raindrops hit her palm. It felt extremely comfortable and refreshing. Lin Che said, "See, doesn't it feel nice? I think it already feels nice to watch the rain from inside the house." Chapter 434. What if I just can't get enough of you? You really have no romance in you, Gu Jingze. If you didn't have money and that handsome face of yours, I think you definitely wouldn't be able to get a girlfriend. You're too hard to get along with. Gu Jingze only hung on to the one phrase of hers, "You think my face is handsome?" Lin Che looked at him. Yes, you're handsome. You narcissist." Gu Jingze said, "You're the one who finds me handsome. You're obviously the one fawning over me. How come I'm the narcissistic one?" He brushed past Lin Che, making her look at him as he asked, "Don't you love my face?" Lin Che replied, "No." Gu Jingze smiled lightly, "You really don't?" "No. Besides it being a slightly better looking face, there's nothing special about it," Lin Che retorted. Gu Jingze held her hands and lowered his head to look into her eyes. His dark eyes glistened like the quiet, rainy night. It made her eyes water along with his too. Gu Jingze's face really seemed to look better and better. Even now, there was not a single flaw. His eyes were bright, his brows were full and strong, his nose was straight, and his thin lips were so sexy. He looked even more charming under the glow of the night. The coolness on his face made him look like a character straight out of a comic book. It lifted up her heart. It felt as if it was a crime to have this perfect man by her side. And yet, she couldn't bear to leave him. He looked down at her and leaned into her cheek. His warm breath surrounded her. Lin Che started to panic. "Stop doing that. Do you like it or not?" "I don't like it. Who would force someone else to like something?" "You don't like it, but I can see clearly from your eyes that you want me." Since when did she say that? However, she really wanted him. She looked at his sexy thin lips moving non-stop. The wetness inside was unclear, but it really gave her the urge to kiss him and suck his tongue into her own mouth. It was too perverted. As she continued staring at him, her eyes became dazed. Just then, they heard a faint sound in the distance. The movement was not big, but it was enough for them to notice. Lin Che halted and asked Gu Jingze, I think I heard something. Did you hear it? No. What is it? Gu Jingze only wanted to kiss her. She almost came to him of her own accord but was interrupted. Naturally, he wasn't very pleased about it. However, Lin Che was already following the sound and walking away. I'll go take a look. I wonder what's making that sound. Wait, stay behind me. I'll do it. Gu Jingze pulled her back. The sound was clearly coming from the bush in front. Lin Che was haphazardly walking straight to it, unafraid of the potential danger. Gu Jingze pulled her to stand behind him while he pried at the bush. In the middle was a box. A dog was yelping inside. It looked like it had not reached the size of weaning and was very small. Oh my, it's a puppy. Upon seeing the puppy, Lin Che couldn't stay still and immediately scooped it up in her arms. Gu Jingze said, someone must have abandoned it. So cute. Poor thing, it's all drenched. Lin Che carried the dog lovingly. The puppy looked at her with glistening eyes. It was a mutt and nobody could tell which breeds were involved. Its fur was long and fuzzy, so it looked like a ball of fluff. Lin Che looked up at Gu Jingze, such a poor thing. Let's bring it home. Gu Jingze said, I don't like to keep dogs. Ah, but I like to keep them. Gu Jingze said, if you like, I can get a pedigree. We can keep one in the backyard. Lin Che said, what's the point of that? This puppy is fine. I don't need some pedigree that is going to be looked after by someone else. I want to raise it on my own. Can we? I always wanted to keep a dog if I had my own big house one day. I'll watch TV with it every day, go out for walks together. Gu Jingze looked speechlessly at Lin Che. Lin Che carried the dog and said to it pitifully, can't you see how pitiful it is? He was abandoned here and he will definitely die. Don't be so cruel, Gu Jingze. Let's adopt it. She jumped in front of him and looked at him with desire. Gu Jingze's entire heart and soul were moved. It was clearly nothing much, but because of that movement, his body was already beginning to lose control. What a little vixen. Now, she knew how to manipulate him on purpose. Gu Jingze asked, how are you going to bribe me? Bribe. Lin Che looked at his face and gazed at his lips. She blushed and finally did what she wanted to do since just now. She went up to his face and kissed him on the lips. She hooked his tongue inside. She sucked on it and absorbed all the wetness into her own mouth. This exchange immediately excited him. This woman. Where did she learn such a technique? She closed her eyes, feeling his movement as he leaned closer into her. As if he was lost, he searched for her lips and tongue. He continued teasing her. Lin Che also grew excited, clinging onto him and making this kiss even deeper. The umbrella fell to the side but the rain didn't put out their burning passion. Lin Che could only feel her own body heating up from his teasing. It was as if she was on fire. But then, she remembered that she still had a puppy in her arms. She released his lips. He frowned. It was not enough, but seeing that her hair was already soaked, he took the umbrella and said, insufficient bribe. We'll continue inside. Lin Che's face turned red. Back inside the house, the maids saw that Lin Che brought a puppy back. Lin Che said, bring a towel quickly. We should bathe it first. Is there dog food? I don't think we have dog food in here. Because of this dog, the maids were suddenly so busy getting dog food and dog accessories. Thankfully in the Gu house, everybody quickly gathered what was needed. Lin Che bathed the dog and it looked completely different. It was white and tender and it was so adorable. Lin Che squatted to feed the dog. The maid asked boldly, Madam, are you keeping this puppy? Lin Che looked up gleefully and said, yes, what do you think? Isn't it cute? Yes, it's very cute. But did Sir agree to it? Yes, I just made him agree. Hee. Lin Che played with the puppy happily. The maid replied in surprise, really? Sir is really good to Madam. Lin Che nodded profusely and agreed. However, she was worried as she never owned a dog before, but I've never owned a dog. I hope this dog won't suffer with me. How can that be? It is really fortunate to have met Madam. Chapter 435. You can keep it if you want to. This dog's fate was already completely changed as it was going to be raised in Gu Jingze's home. The maids thought, this sounds ugly, but countless people didn't deserve to be the Gu family's dog even if they were willing to. When Gu Jingze came out, he saw that Lin Che was still playing with the dog. The dog was now clean and felt more at ease. It was running everywhere, curiously looking around the place but not quite daring to go too far. It only stayed close to Lin Che. Gu Jingze said, it seems rather active. Lin Che said, it's my dog. Of course, it's smart. Gu Jingze watched the dog run to Lin Che's hand. It licked her hand happily. Gu Jingze seemed to be thinking about something. He walked over and picked the dog up to look. What are you doing? Lin Che asked in a surprised tone. I'm checking if it's male or female. What? Gu Jingze turned it over to see. It was a male. Gu Jingze's face darkened. Throw it away. I'll get you another dog. No. Lin Che quickly snatched the dog back into her arms and said, no, no. You said I could keep it. You can't go back on your words. Gu Jingze's face was sullen. He was helpless. But the dog's gaze seemed to become sharper. As if it was saying, what are you looking at? I'll throw you out too if I get the chance one day. Lin Che quickly carried the dog to its bed. Thankfully, the Gu house was very big and there were plenty of rooms. They prepared a room for the dog near the master bedroom. Lin Che had the room done up nicely, turning an empty room into a dog's bedroom. Then, she took a photo of it and posted it to her social circle. She realized that she hadn't given the dog a name. She asked Gu Jingze, who was watching at the side, what would make a good name for the dog. Gu Jingze replied, just call it Dog. No, can you be more serious? Call him Stinky. You are the stinky one. Don't give such a nasty name to such a cute dog. Because he was stinky, to begin with. He wasn't. You're clearly biased. She was still protecting the dog. She was defying him over a dog. She was really getting more brazen. Lin Che couldn't be bothered with him. She pouted as she mulled over what to name the dog. I want to give him a very regal or prince-like name. Hey, maybe I'll call him Prince. What do you think? Prince, was that a dog's name? But Lin Che already looked very satisfied with herself. She said, all right, let's settle with that. Prince, Prince, my little prince. She happily sent the dog's photo to her social circle and said, our little prince begins life with us today. Please grow happy and healthy. Not long after, Yu Minmin was the first to reply, you're keeping a dog. Gosh, did you dedicate a room for it? Shen Yoren also soon saw it. No way. Does your home still need a dog? The kind that can cook and clean and tell you jokes to make you happy. Messages soon streamed in. Some asked what dog it was while some said that they envied this lucky puppy. Some also said that it was a mutt. Why didn't Lin Che keep an expensive one instead? She was rich and her house was big. She was already living in a mansion in such a short time. Being a celebrity must have been very profitable. Everyone successfully digressed from the dog to the topic of money. Lin Che then wondered if giving a room to the dog was a little too excessive. However, the main thing was that this house had an empty room that was not in use. She was merely not letting the room go to waste. If anyone were to blame, it would be on the Gu house for having too many rooms. It was too big to be fully utilized, but it was still built anyway. Her little puppy was very lucky to have a room all to itself. Now that she thought about it, even she didn't have her own room despite staying in this house for so long. She had always been staying in Gu Jingze's room. Gu Jingze saw that Lin Che was still fussing over the puppy and he felt extremely displeased. He felt completely invisible. She hadn't been with him for long and yet she already didn't find him fresh anymore. Was a dog now more attractive than him? Lin Che was still squatting there when she felt the man behind her slowly getting closer to her. When she looked up, the man's face was already eclipsing the light above. She froze. What are you doing? In the next moment, Gu Jingze already swept her off her feet. What are you doing, Gu Jingze? Lin Che was draped over his shoulders. She exclaimed, no, let me go. Where are you taking me to? Gu Jingze said plainly, you spent half the day playing with the dog. It's time to clean up. Lin Che didn't believe him. I will only clean up if you put me down. Gu Jingze continued carrying her on his shoulders and walked straight into the master bedroom, not caring about the maids who were watching. The maids looked at each other and couldn't resist laughing. Sir and Madam were really too loving. And it was only when Madam was at home would Sir be more human instead of a cold robot. Meanwhile, inside, Lin Che could only admire Gu Jingze's strength. Why did he always make it seem as if she was weightless whenever he carried her? And his endurance was shocking. If he didn't intentionally hold himself back so as not to harm her, she probably would have been a goner. Thankfully his gentle movements actually made her feel good too. But why did she feel good at that moment, yet feel dead tired after that? Now that there was a dog at home, the maids would naturally take care of the daily routine and not let the house get dirty. Although Gu Jingze said that he wasn't fond of it, he still found a veterinarian the next day to give Prince shots and deworm him. And thus, they kept the dog. Lin Che returned home and saw that there were railings and toys in place for Prince. She thought that this Gu Jingze was really firm in speech but soft in heart. He said that he didn't like it, but he still added so many complicated playthings for the dog and turned Prince's room into a playground. As she talked, the maids smiled and said, "Sir is still good to Madam. As long as Madam likes it, Sir immediately prepares everything for Madam. Sir called people in to specially install all these in the morning. Prince is also way too lucky to have Sir and Madam dote on him so much. Other dogs would never have such an opportunity." Lin Che's heart was warm and fuzzy. Thinking about Gu Jingze's sulky face, she couldn't help but smile blissfully. Yes, the dog was very lucky. She was very lucky too. Gu Jingming was bringing Yu Minmin back home for the first time since their marriage. Naturally, it was to attend a family gathering. The family gathering was for Mu Wanqing's birthday. Lin Che prepared a present a long time ago. In the end, she decided to make Mu Wanqing a fireplace. Gu Jingze said that it didn't matter what she gave as he already had Qin Hao prepare his gift a long time ago. Lin Che and Gu Jingze returned to the Gu household together. When they got out of the car, they saw that Yu Minmin was also coming over. Chapter 436, They got into a fight. Gu Jingze said that it didn't matter what she gave as he already had Qin Hao prepare his gift a long time ago. Lin Che and Gu Jingze returned to the Gu household together. When they got out of the car, they saw that Yu Minmin was also coming over. She got out of the car and quickly ran to Lin Che. Looking at Lin Che, she said, "I was still wondering when you were going to come. It's my first time here and I thought I wouldn't be able to find the place." Lin Che asked, "How can that be? Can't you just let Big Brother bring you in?" Yu Minmin shook her head with her mouth slightly opened. "Pinning any hope on him would be as good as pinning hope on me." Yu Minmin saw Gu Jingze come out and she quickly stood to the side. She greeted Gu Jingze, "President Gu." Gu Jingze looked at Yu Minmin, "You can call me by my name at home." How could Yu Minmin ever get used to that? This was Gu Jingze. Would she be crazy enough to address him by name? How could she when she always felt that she could get dragged out by Gu Jingze's men at any minute? Lin Che said, "All right, let's go in. This place is indeed rather huge. I wonder who will come today. Will there be a lot of people?" Gu Jingze said that it is a family gathering, so there shouldn't be outsiders. But who knows? Lin Che looked at the people coming in from behind. Gu Jingze's men and the president's guards all looked extremely distinct. Because Gu Jingming was busy, he could only join later. Lin Che and Yu Minmin went to meet Mu Wanqing first. Mu Wanqing smiled at Lin Che and said, "Right, I watched the joke you told on the internet." Lin Che said speechlessly, "Mom, that was just for fun. You still watched it? I'm so embarrassed." "Don't be. I thought it was hilarious. I didn't think you knew how to tell jokes, little Che." Lin Che really felt embarrassed. That joke was so perverted. Mu Wanqing also smiled at Yu Minmin. She wasn't particularly familiar with her, so she wasn't as intimate as she was with Lin Che. However, she was already elated that Gu Jingming could get married. She doted on her children-in-law very much. "Quick, come in, Lin Che, it's excellent that you two know each other. That Jingming child is too aloof. I was afraid that Minmin would get scared off." The three ladies walked out to the backyard. The huge backyard of the Gu household was an open-air space decorated into a little tea party. Lin Che just sat down with Yu Minmin when Lu Chusha arrived. When she came in, she quickly greeted Mu Wanqing. However, Mu Wanqing was very neutral to her. People were selfish. When there were no children-in-law, she felt that the house would be very lively whenever there was a guest. Now that she had two daughters-in-law, all her attention had shifted to them and she couldn't be bothered with anyone else. Thus, she only smiled and said, "Go in and see what you'd like to eat. I'm busy today, so I probably won't be able to entertain you. Do have fun on your own. Jingyan will be here later and you will have someone with you then." Lu Chusha still wanted to give her a present and congratulate her, but Mu Wanqing already walked away. Lu Chusha could only stand there and hear others comment, "Madame Gu is really busy today." Yes, both of her daughters-in-law are here. They look really grand sitting there. That place is only designated for family. The people sitting there now is Mrs. Gu Jingze's wife. The other one is Madam President. You can't match up to them. Lu Chusha looked over. Sure enough, she saw Lin Che and Yu Minmin sitting together. Lu Chusha huffed and made a beeline to them, but a few female bodyguards outside stopped Lu Chusha. Gu Jingming specially chose these bodyguards for Yu Minmin. As Madam President, she had to bring some people along whenever she attended an event and it wasn't convenient to bring men with her. Lu Chusha asked, "Don't you know who I am? You dare to stop me?" But the four women did not budge. "You guys," Lu Chusha was fuming when Lu Baikan arrived. "That's enough, Chusha, stop creating trouble all the time." Lu Chusha said, "They're not letting me go there." Lu Baikan looked inside, "It's good enough for you to stay here." Lin Che only watched Lu Chusha kick up a fuss. She would never interfere. However, she saw Lu Baikan arrive. He didn't have any vengeance with her and he was the Gu family's son-in-law. She had to give face to him. She got up and walked to them. "Alright, this is Miss Lu, you guys don't need to block her." The bodyguards saw that it was Lin Che and then stepped aside. They previously stopped her during the wedding in Glazed Tile Palace and were reprimanded by their superior. That was how they learned that Lin Che was part of the Gu family. Her status was different and they had to respect her. Although Lu Chusha wasn't being held back now, she was still unhappy. Weren't these the presidential guards? Why did they listen to Lin Che? What was the meaning of this? Lu Chusha grunted at Lin Che. Lu Baikan looked at Lin Che, not expecting her to be such an easygoing person. They hadn't interacted much before and his impression of her changed a little this time. He wasn't an unreasonable person. He looked at Lu Chusha and then apologized to Lin Che, "Ignore her, just take it that she has a loose screw. Please call me if you need anything. I'll come to you whenever." Lin Che quickly said, "It's all right. Go to your own things. There are people everywhere. Nothing will happen." Lu Baikan expressed his concern. Nothing would happen if it was someone else. But with this sister of his, who knew what could happen? But he looked deeply at the other side and still decided to smile and go entertain other guests. Lu Chusha looked at Yu Minmin, suddenly remembering how she insulted Yu Minmin. Today, she was actually Madam President. Lu Chusha looked back at Lin Che and thought that she was really cunning. She was bringing all her own people into the Gu family. She really underestimated this woman in the past. Because of this woman, she was now despised by Gu Jingze. It was also because of this woman that Gu Jingze actually found out about all her dirty deeds. Thinking about it made Lu Chusha feel so ashamed. Anyway, it was all this woman's fault. Lu Chusha looked at Yu Minmin inside. "Not bad, Lin Che. You made your stray cats and dogs become part of the Gu family so that your position in the family could stabilize, right?" Lin Che's face darkened. "I only let you through for your brother's sake. Please clean your dirty mouth. Since when did I, Lu Chusha, need to rely on someone else?" Lu Chusha scoffed. "Furthermore, did I say anything wrong? If that isn't a stray cat, then what is it?" "That is Madam President. Don't tell me that the young mistress of the Lu family is so ill-mannered." "I don't need manners for scum like you," Lu Chusha said blatantly. Just then, Yu Minmin approached them. Hearing every insult made her face darken. Lin Che already lost control and was about to lunge forward. Yu Minmin pulled her back down. Lin Che, don't move. Lu Chusha looked at Lin Che who wanted to lunge at her. Very well. Do you want to hit me? Come on, do it. Let me see what you got. If you dare to hit me, you better pray that you'll forever be under Gu Jingze's protection. Otherwise, my family will skin you alive sooner or later. Chapter 437. Whoever loses will leave Gu Jingze. Yu Minmin, don't stop me. I must rip off that foul mouth of hers. There's no need to be polite with this kind of person. Lu Chusha saw Lin Che coming at her. Before anyone else could interfere, she made the first move and pulled Lin Che's arm. Yu Minmin saw this and really wanted to retaliate. She immediately grabbed hold of Lu Chusha. Lu Chusha naturally couldn't win against two people. The three of them got into a scuffle. People in the distance were stunned, but nobody dared to approach them. What's happening there? They're fighting. Let's go. One is Gu Jingze's wife, one is Madam President, and one is the young mistress of the Lu family. Which one can you afford to offend? No way. Why are they fighting? Why do you care? They naturally have their own reason to fight and they're all powerful. There's nothing wrong about family fighting with each other. Exactly. Stay away from it. That is the battle zone of the wealthy first-class people. An average Joe like you better steer clear from it. Otherwise, you'd be caught up in it too. Lu Chusha obviously couldn't win against them. The bodyguards immediately noticed the commotion and went to stop them. Lu Baikan hadn't gone too far and immediately ran back. Mu Wanqing wondered what happened and quickly came over to look. What happened? What are you lot doing? Lin Che, Minmin, Chusha. What's going on? The three of them were eventually pried apart. Mu Wanqing looked at the three ladies in surprise. Lu Chusha looked down to see that her skirt was torn. She immediately gritted her teeth and said to Lin Che, how dare you? This skirt is a limited edition and you can't buy it anywhere else. You actually ruined it. Lin Che grunted, you started it first and made the first move. You couldn't win and now you're blaming me. Lu Chusha looked up. Seeing that Mu Wanqing was there, she looked down again and cried, you see. Lin Che and Yu Minmin ganged up to bully me. They even ruined my clothes. Mu Wanqing had just recovered from her shock and was now sizing up the three ladies. Mu Wanqing said, Chusha, little Che, Minmin, don't panic. What exactly is going on here? Lu Chusha didn't leave a chance for Lin Che to speak and immediately said, it was Lin Che. She kept trying to lunge at me and attack me. Everyone must have seen it. Lin Che said, you were being disrespectful first. I only said some things that you didn't like to hear and you tried to hit me. What kind of logic is that? Lu Chusha retorted. Mu Wanqing held Lu Chusha back and looked at her, that's enough, Chusha. I believe Lin Che was in the wrong. Lu Chusha immediately looked happily at Mu Wanqing, yes. Lin Che was blatantly bullying me. She must apologize to me. But Mu Wanqing cut her off, however, little Che would never do anything unreasonable. She is an understanding child and would never retaliate for no rhyme or reason. Lu Chusha's complexion immediately became rigid. Lin Che also froze slightly and then she looked gratefully at Mu Wanqing. Lu Chusha said, Auntie, you can't use that one reason to stand on her side. My skirt is ruined now and this is the absolute evidence. Mu Wanqing said, if you were the one to start it first, it's also normal for Lin Che to retaliate. Alright, Chusha, you are all still young and I won't get mad if you bicker and fight. Just don't let this happen again next time. Lin Che was aware that although Lu Chusha came to cause trouble, it was still not right to fight here, even if it wasn't on purpose. She was too agitated at that moment and failed to realize it. Now, she looked up and saw people pointing and staring at them. Lin Che then felt that it was indeed not a good thing. She said, Mom, I'm sorry. It won't happen again. But Lu Chusha said, Auntie, you're being too biased towards Lin Che. Mu Wanqing looked at Lu Chusha. She smiled, but her eyes were firm. Lin Che is a child of the Gu family. If I'm not biased towards her, who else would I be biased towards? Biased towards an outsider. Lu Chusha was stunned. Seeing Mu Wanqing standing together with Lin Che and Yu Minmin, her lone figure looked even more prominent and weak. This was indeed the Gu household, and she definitely didn't want to offend Gu Jingze's mother, who was Madame Gu of the Gu family. However, Lu Chusha was still fuming, especially whenever she looked down and saw her good skirt that was actually ripped by Lin Che. Lu Chusha turned to look at Lin Che's face hatefully. She gritted her teeth and said, "Fine, Lin Che. I won't argue with you since it's Auntie's birthday today. However, you must apologize to me." Lin Che said as she looked at Lu Chusha, "Why should I apologize to you? Understand this clearly. You came to create trouble in the first place." Lu Chusha asked, "Why should you?" "Lin Che, if you feel indignant, fine. I'll make a bet with you. Whoever loses will apologize and give way to the winner whenever they cross paths." They looked at each other, unable to comprehend what Lu Chusha was trying to do this time. Lu Chusha narrowed her eyes at Lin Che. "What's wrong? You don't dare to take up the challenge?" "I suppose so. You're a commoner who doesn't know anything. You're not a single bit compatible with Gu Jingze at all. It's understandable if you're not up to the challenge. You can admit it now then. Say that you don't match up to Gu Jingze and I won't pursue any issue with you." Lin Che's eye twitched. It was obvious that Lu Chusha was trying to provoke and agitate her, but her heart was already weak and she indeed became agitated. Yes, she had always felt that way. She was lucky enough to have met Gu Jingze. However, she had never done anything for Gu Jingze before. Instead, she had been burdening him. Like what people said, there was no need to be so calculative when two people were together. It was not a competition and there was no need to compare who gave more. But in her heart, she still hoped that she would be able to prove that she could stand by Gu Jingze's side. Lin Che looked at Lu Chusha. "You need to first tell me. What do you want to do?" "Next month, there will be a socialite party and all the elite families in C Nation will be attending. The Gu family will also be attending. There will be a vote for the top socialite. Do you dare to partake in this election? If you dare and you win me, I'll immediately apologize to you. Furthermore, I will stay far away from you when I see you in the future. I won't come close to you anymore." Top socialite. Gu Jingze never mentioned that there was such a thing. Lin Che had never heard of such a party. Lu Chusha said, "If you don't dare to participate, you can admit defeat to me now. You will say that you don't deserve Gu Jingze and you will apologize to me. Then, I will also stay far away from you, but it will be only because you don't deserve to be my rival." Lu Chusha raised her head proudly. She looked at Lin Che, her eyes filled with strong confidence. Lin Che stared plainly at Lu Chusha. At the side, Mu Wanqing and Yu Minmin had worried expressions on their faces. Chapter 438. What is the so-called competition? Mu Wanqing tugged Lin Che. "Forget it, little Che. We don't care about some top socialite title. Come on, let's just ignore her." Lu Chusha said, "Auntie, are you trying to stop her because you also feel that Lin Che has absolutely no rights to compete with me?" "You're right. No wonder none of you have ever told Lin Che and let her attend a huge party like that. It's because you guys know that she doesn't have the qualifications at all, right?" Lin Che released herself from Mu Wanqing's hand and looked at Lu Chusha. "I'll accept your challenge. However, if you lose, I hope you never come to the Gu house again. You can never step foot in here." Lu Chusha didn't expect Lin Che to really take up the challenge. She laughed and looked at Lin Che. Looking at Lin Che with despise, she said, "Okay, I agree." Yu Minmin looked at Lin Che in surprise. Did she know what she just signed herself up for? Yu Minmin and Lin Che walked in the field. She looked at the people in the distance and said to Lin Che, "I went to secretly find out more about that so-called socialite selection." "What about it? You're simply crazy to agree to such a thing." Lin Che asked, "What exactly is it about? Aren't you going to tell me?" "The so-called socialite selection takes place during the annual WW party. WW is short for WOMENWAI. This means that this party mainly centers around the women involved in this battle who are actually all from wealthy families. This means that it calls upon women to stand up and flaunt their feminine power. Those participating are all decent socialite mistresses and madams. Anyway, the women there are either the headmistress of some family or a wealthy family's young mistress. No ordinary person can take part in it. It sounds very impeccable. Of course it is. What's more impeccable is that they always prepare something different every year for them to compete in. For example, the previous times had been archery, golf, artistic gymnastics, piano, ballet, and fencing. Holy, that's sick. I don't know anything. Lin Che suddenly felt goosebumps on her skin. What will it be this time? It hasn't been decided yet. There'll be a tea party in a few days and everyone will decide there. I'm guessing it won't be anything normal either. It will probably be some sick stuff. What should I do? Lin Che now felt that she had been fooled. She thought it was merely some singing or dancing kind of thing and it should have been manageable. Of course, she still simply agreed to it in the spur of the moment. Now, she knew that she was in trouble. Yu Minmin said, "There's something even sicker." Yu Minmin purposely hesitated. She pursed her lips and looked at Lin Che. Lu Chusha won first place for 2 consecutive years. Lu Chusha was that good? Yu Minmin said, otherwise, she wouldn't be the top socialite. Ultimately, she still has a few tricks up her sleeve. Lin Che heard this and regret started to sink in. She shouldn't have been so impulsive and agreed so quickly. Never mind, it's just going to be an apology anyway. At the very most, I'm only going to admit that I don't deserve Gu Jingze. Anyway, I really don't match up to him. That's enough. Don't say such foolish words, Yu Minmin said. Gu Jingze is not a fool. Wouldn't he know if you match up to him or not? His kind actions towards you prove that you match up to him. Don't care about what anyone else says. They don't know you. The one who understands you the best is the person with you. I know. I'm not bringing myself down and neither am I sad. It's just a fact, so I'll just take it as I'm telling the truth, Lin Che said. Lu Baikan saw Lu Chusha come out and he caught up to her. Chusha, how can you go against Lin Che like that? That is not proper behavior at all. About that bet just now, go tell Lin Che that you'll call it off. It is meaningless, to begin with. On what basis? She agreed to it herself. Furthermore, it's just the top socialite title. If she can't even achieve this, then she really doesn't match up to such a strong and good man like Gu Jingze. Lu Baikan said, don't you think this is too childish? If you have nothing better to do, why don't you ask Dad to let you run some company? How can you wreak havoc and harm others in the process? I don't want some company. She looked at Lu Baikan, don't bother with me. You can't even manage yourself well and you're trying to manage me. Move aside. I can choose not to care about you, but don't you come asking me for money, Lu Baikan grunted and turned to leave. Hey, big brother, you can't be like this. I just can't get over her. Every single one of you is standing on her side. Of course, I'm angry about it. I am your sister and this isn't such a difficult thing. What's the big deal in competing? Big brother, just don't bother with my affairs. What I want to remind you is that you better take good care of my sister-in-law. She has had no lack of suitors lately. Lu Baikan's eyes froze. He turned back, his dark pupils glowing red. Lu Chusha fiddled with her nails, rubbing the cuticle oil on them. Sister-in-law is such a beautiful lady, it's normal that people like her. Don't be so agitated, I'm just reminding you. Stop minding the business of others and look after her more. Otherwise, don't regret it when someone really takes her away. Lu Baikan stood there, quietly watching Lu Chusha leave. When he went back, he saw Gu Jingyan chatting with another person there. Upon closer look, the person chatting with her was none other than Lu Baiyun. He was a cousin of the Lu family. More importantly, he was the one who kept pestering Gu Jingyan since high school. Lu Baikan cleared his throat. Lu Baiyun saw Lu Baikan and quickly said to Gu Jingyan, so find me if there's anything. I wouldn't hesitate to go through fire and water just for you. We're old classmates. There's no need to stand on ceremony with each other. Right, there'll be a class reunion in a few days. You must come. Lu Baiyun was a cousin of the Lu family, but he couldn't match up to the Lu family at all. Meanwhile, Lu Baikan was the eldest son of the Lu family and was definitely the absolute heir. Since high school, Lu Baikan always looked down on him. So naturally, he stayed far away from Lu Baikan. Gu Jingyan saw that Lu Baikan was here and said, you're just in time. Remember to send out these gifts. I'm not going back home with you. Mom also said that we'll be going overseas next week. I've already arranged our flights. The Liu family's planes are all busy, so I used the Gu family's plane en route. Everything was done so perfectly that nobody could find fault in it. It was just like her, flawless and stunning. Liu Baikan asked, "What's he doing here?" "What do you mean what's he doing here? He was just chatting with me." "Gu Jingyan, he was always obsessed with you since we were in high school. Now, you're keeping such close contact with him. What's wrong with you?" Chapter 439. Things were actually very good between them initially. High school was such a long time ago and we're all grown up now. How can you still be thinking about those things? Gu Jingyan said. Liu Baikan pursed his lips tightly and looked at her. "Never mind. Perhaps you just love the feeling of having someone revolve around you anyway. I must have interrupted your affair." Gu Jingyan was exasperated. She looked at Liu Baikan and said, "This is called having an affair. At least I don't have some secret golden mistress house so that I can keep my ex-girlfriend in my own property." "Ha, you still want a secret house? I just want to see how you can keep it a secret." Liu Baikan looked at Gu Jingyan. Gu Jingyan took the files on the desk and walked in. "Do you want to see? It'll be much better than yours. Just take a look at yours. The paparazzi already discovered it. Do you know how troublesome it is to release public statements for you every day so that we can cancel off some of this news? Please do a better job if you want to hide, so that you won't burden others next time." She said it so casually. Indeed, he did get a house for Fu Chengxi because she didn't have a place to stay. Liu Baikan immediately held her chin up and looked at her face. "You better not find trouble with Chengxi." Gu Jingyan retorted, "I must be really free. I can't even manage my own matters and I still have to bother about your girlfriend. Who knows what a snake like you will try to do?" Liu Baikan looked at her and his grip tightened. Gu Jingyan stared back at him. "What? You're leaning in so close and it's not dark yet. Do you already want to pay your tax grain?" Gu Jingyan looked at him provocatively. "You can. I don't mind doing it again. Where was there such a woman on earth?" However, Liu Baikan gazed at her snake-like face. The ridiculous thing was that there was a reaction. Especially because of her eyes. They kept moving down his body until they reached his lower body. Liu Baikan immediately pushed her hand away, making that little bit of fantasy in his mind stop. "You wish," Liu Baikan said, "go out and find a man if you really want." Gu Jingyan stood there and watched Liu Baikan leave. The smile on her face gradually fell. Actually, Liu Baikan wasn't like this in the past. They also had good times. They met every day and were practically together from dawn to dusk. However, he was someone else's boyfriend at that time. Gu Jingyan remembered that she loved going against him then and making him angry. In sophomore year, when he got together with Fu Chengxi, they often hung out together. Liu Baikan was the boss. He was impulsive and everyone listened to him when it came to wreaking havoc. They would go drinking after exams. Fu Chengxi didn't drink at all, but it was such a happy occasion and Gu Jingyan told her that it was okay to drink a little. Who knew that she could barely handle a few sips? She and Fu Chengxi held the microphone and hollered in the KTV. They were so loud that guests in other rooms gave up. They barged in and looked at the group clad in school uniforms. They said, "Brats, can you be a nuisance elsewhere? You're disturbing us." Gu Jingyan was already drunk at that time and couldn't care about anything else. She said to them, "Who are you calling brats? You can come and sing if you're unhappy." The guest didn't expect the kids to retaliate and said to Gu Jingyan, "You haven't fully matured yet and you dare to fight with grandpa." But when he saw Gu Jingyan, he was almost salivating. He said to Gu Jingyan, "Little girl, how about you accompany me today and I will forget about your rude behavior. Otherwise." His dirty hand reached out to touch Gu Jingyan's face. However, he didn't notice the few boys who already got up and approached him. Liu Baikan saw his hand and instantly grabbed it. "How dare you touch her?" Liu Baikan said. The guests saw Liu Baikan who was wearing the same school uniform and had a baby face. They said, "Which school are you from?" "Whoa, it's an elite high school. If you dare to touch me today, I'll immediately let you know how death feels like." Liu Baikan was naturally unafraid of anything as he was used to his ways of tyranny. No one in school dared to mess with his gang. Coupled with the fact that he did well in his studies, even the teachers did not dare to bother him. Liu Baiken, together with the other two guys, immediately grabbed their opponent and started beating them up cruelly. Fu Chengxi was so afraid she coiled under the protection of Gu Jingyan. Gu Jingyan didn't think that a fight would ensue. Only after seeing a few of them get beaten up until they were unrecognizable did she hurry over to grab hold of Liu Baiken. Stop fighting, stop fighting. If you continue fighting, you'll end up killing someone. Liu Baiken turned around and grabbed her hands. He looked closely at her face. Did they touch you anywhere? Gu Jingyan looked at his face. Although they had the advantage, a brawl was still a brawl. They were also wounded in action. Liu Baiken's face was beaten up badly and was bleeding. Gu Jingyan felt a certain warmness. She looked at him, shook her head, and said they did not. It was only then that Liu Baiken stopped. He spat at the few men and said, "These here are all my people. You dare touch people that belong to me, Liu Baiken, you must be tired of living." That day, she really felt that he was a hero. He was so dashing. However, on the second day, they were summoned to the disciplinary department because someone had complained to the school. They still remembered the school uniform in the last sentence that he shouted. "You dare touch the girls that belong to me, Liu Baiken." However, the disciplinary department could only look at these hedonistic sons of rich parents and were ultimately unable to do anything. They could not punish them, yet they could not let them off unpunished. In the end, a few of them were to clean up the sports field for a week and the matter passed. As Gu Jingyan thought about the events of the past, a little smile appeared on her face. At that time, the two of them were at loggerheads. However, they also helped each other out. Although they did not understand each other, they never allowed anyone to badmouth either of them. She thought that deep down, he must be really nice to her. But now, it seemed that he already loathed her thoroughly. Gu Jingming was in a deep discussion with Gu Jingze in the room since he arrived. When the two brothers came out, they then found out what just happened. Lin Che saw Gu Jingze walk over from far away. She hurried over to him. "Gu Jingze, you're finally here." Gu Jingze nodded his head and looked at Lin Che. "Are you going to attend WW's banquet?" "That's right," Lin Che said. "Why? Am I not allowed to?" Gu Jingze sized her up and asked, "What are you good at?" Lin Che said, Who knows what they are competing with this time? If it's shooting, I'm quite good at it. I played with water guns when I was young. If it's riding, didn't we ride a horse last time? If it's dancing, it should be quite easy to learn. We have a professional dance instructor that teaches in our company." Chapter 440. My daughter is really Madam President. Gu Jingze shook his head. It looked like she really didn't know anything. Lin Che asked, "Why? Is it bad that I'll attend this?" Gu Jingze looked at her. "Go attend it if you feel like attending." "But if I lose?" "If you lose, then so be it. Why, did you bet on something important in the gamble?" "That's not it. I'm only saying, if I lose, then I'll have to admit that I'm not good enough for you," Lin Che pouted and said. Gu Jingze replied, "Do you think this is very important?" "Not really actually, it remains a fact that I'm just not good enough for you, so it doesn't matter." Gu Jingze patted her head. "Yes, you're indeed inferior to me in every way." Lin Che's heart paused for a moment as she looked at him. Gu Jingze replied, "Your intelligence is inferior to me, your looks are inferior to me, you aren't half as wealthy as me." Gu Jingze saw Lin Che's squinty eyes as she looked down on herself. He laughed as he said, "But thinking about it, there is absolutely no one in this world who can match up to me. As with you, I'll just have to make do. At least you're as self-aware as I am." "Go away." Gu Jingze replied, "Since it has come to this, there's nothing else you can do about it." Whether she was good enough was not for anyone else to judge. Gu Jingze thought that even if she lost, he would definitely not allow anyone to say that she did not match up to him. Furthermore, he had never felt that she was unworthy. Even if she was unworthy of him, then there would really be no one else in the world who could match up to him. Gu Jingming looked at Yu Minmin. "Have you guys been together this entire time?" Yu Minmin said, "Yes. So you were involved in the fight as well? Gu Jingming looked at her deeply. Don't be so rigid, she provoked us in the first place. What would happen if we didn't fight back? If I was really beaten up, you would be the disgraced one, right? Gu Jingming only stared at her more intensely and shook his head. Gu Jingming said, come on. Let's go grab some food. Just then, Lu Chusha was coming over from the distance. From afar, she could see Gu Jingze and Lin Che, as well as Gu Jingming and Yu Minmin, sitting together. It was a little garden there and they were guarded on all four sides. This was really a very refreshing sight. After all, the two brothers were not often seen together in front of everybody. Lu Chusha heard someone say, with just one Gu Jingyu, it would be a full reunion. That image indeed looked good and especially high-end since nobody was allowed to come close. Lu Chusha said, humph. It's just a contract marriage. That Lin Che is nothing and so is that Yu Minmin who appeared from God knows where. Lu Chusha continued, just wait until the WW banquet. I'll show her the true meaning of being a socialite and what kind of standard it truly entails. When the time comes, she won't even have the face to be here. Humph. What, Lin Che is attending the WW banquet? Yes, I heard that they have a bet. Lu Chusha made a bet with Lin Che. Whoever loses must back out of the socialite circle for good and stay away from the Gu family. How did that happen? That is Mrs. Gu. How can she stay away from the Gu family? Don't tell me Lu Chusha really has her attention on Gu Jingze. Staying away should mean divorce in that case. Oh my god, why did Lin Che accept this bet? This doesn't do any good for her. It must be because she knows that if Lu Chusha continues being so persistent, Gu Jingze might just end up in Lu Chusha's arms. Thus, she accepted this life or death bet. Whoever wins will stay by Gu Jingze's side. By the time Lin Che left, news about the bet between her and Lu Chusha had already traveled everywhere. In the car, Yu Minmin was still talking to Lin Che over the phone. I'm really fortunate. The two circles are not the same. It's like this in the entertainment circle and the aristocratic messy circle isn't any better. How can the news be stretched so ridiculously? Now, it's being said that if you lose, you have to leave Gu Jingze. No way am I going crazy. Yes, but that's just what they're saying right now. They said that you and Lu Chusha made a life or death bet. Whoever wins will stay by Gu Jingze's side and whoever loses will have to get lost. Did they not think Gu Jingze is our wager? Gu Jingze is the wager. How can that be? One would have to be mad to make Gu Jingze the wager. Gu Jingze would never allow himself to be a wager. And we must be asking for death to use him as a wager. Yu Minmin said, anyway, that's what they are saying. Good luck to you. It's a huge stake this time. Lin Che wanted to die. These people really knew how to pass the word around. Gu Jingming looked at Yu Minmin, are you done with your phone call? I'm done, Yu Minmin quickly said, oh right. Take me to the prison where my dad is. I want to go see my father and see if he can be let out. Alright, do you need me to go with you? No need, go attend your own matters. I just want to see how his attitude is like. How could she let Mr. President accompany her to prison? She got out of the car at her destination. The prison staff saw Yu Minmin and immediately made way for her. For a moment, they didn't expect Yu Minmin to actually come here. Madam, you can tell us in advance. We don't have anything prepared now so it's a bit messy inside. It's alright, I'm just making a personal visit this time. It has nothing to do with my status. Not at all. Your presence here is an important matter. The warden looked at the 4 female bodyguards behind Madam President. This was the real Madam President. The warden welcomed Yu Minmin in. Yu Minmin still wasn't treated this way previously and she couldn't help but hesitate. Father Yu saw Yu Minmin arrive and immediately stood up. Minmin, you're finally here. Is it true? I saw on the TV that you got married to the president. So are you Madam President now? Yu Minmin asked, have you calmed down over these few days in here, Dad? Father Yu could not calm down. He immediately called out to his fellow inmates and yelled, quick, come see my daughter whom I've been talking about. My daughter is Madam President now. None of you believed that she is my daughter. The other inmates started looking over at them. Yu Minmin couldn't continue talking. She heard them exclaim, "It's really her. Your ancestors' graves must be smoking. How did you get such a good daughter? Did you raise her?" Father Yu said, "Well, of course, I raised her. My filial daughter is so capable." Father Yu looked at her, "Daughter, quick, let me out. I definitely won't cause trouble again. I know I've done wrong and I didn't know you were going to become Madam President. If you told me earlier, I wouldn't have caused trouble for you." Yu Minmin said, "What I became has nothing to do with you. Dad, it looks like you're still not ready to be let out.